22 News and Eyewitness News. Before we explain what Five to Live By is, if you haven't seen this little podcast yet, I want to introduce our guest because I'm pretty psyched about this. His name is Chris Palma, and he is a professor of astronomy at Penn State. Chris, can you hear me? How are you?
I can hear you great. I'm doing very well.
I was one of those guys as a kid. I pretty much devoured Carl Sagan's Cosmos, the original one. I know Neil deGrasse Tyson did an update a few years ago, and I really wanted to go into science, but I didn't really have the, I guess, data storage, you know what I mean, upstairs. So I kind of wound up in broadcasting. No fault to that, right? No, I have no regrets at all.
Yeah.
But I had a real deep interest in all things science and space. So I'm really excited to talk about it. What was your first sort of inkling that you wanted to do this for a living?
Oh, that's a great question. I tell everybody my origin story is thanks to my older brother. My brother's 7 years older than me. So when I was a kid growing up, he was already had his first job and he worked at a bookstore. And one day I just brought home from the school library an astronomy book and I thought it was interesting. And my brother just ran with that. So like every Christmas and birthday from his bookstore job, he bought me another astronomy book and I was totally hooked. That was what, just reading about the planets, the stars,
Yeah.
I couldn't stop and give it up.
I agree. Somebody brought me a book early on too when I was a young kid. It was called "Tell Me Why." And it was like the questions and answers for that. Why is the sky blue?
Yeah.
Why are rainbows the colors they are? And it's told in a language that like a 7-year-old kid would understand. So, okay, we'll get to more about that in just a second because I have a lot of questions for you. Five to Live By. It is 5 things in your life that are inspiring to you. Things you really can't live without. They could be sentimental, a cookbook handed down from a great-great-aunt, or something incredibly practical, a watch that just tells great time and always gets you where you need to be going. And Chris, I know you brought your 5, all right, your 5 to live by. Any order you want. Okay. And first question, how long did it take you to narrow it down to 5? I'm finding on this podcast, a lot of people have no problem coming up with 5 right away. It's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How do I not include number 7?
Yeah. So, I mean, what I just did in my case was I narrowed it down. I said, I could bring 5 different pieces of my son's artwork or something like that. But I wanted to bring stuff from my office, right? Like I spend so much time in front of my computer getting ready to teach. And I thought, like, what are things I have to have in my office either to fiddle with or that become things I show off in my class? So I had 3 of them right away. And then I had to, like you said, I had to narrow down. I had to throw some stuff out. And the last 2 took me an extra day or so to really come up with.
We might have to do a podcast later on where the same guests come on and do their 6 through 10. I think that's a great idea. Why don't you start with number 1, and in any order you choose, go for it.
Awesome. So I hope this will show up pretty well, but even if it doesn't, I'm going to tell you how to make this. So this is a toy, right? But it's so scientifically interesting. And the reason, so this is something I made actually with pretty inexpensive components. But the first time I saw one of these was actually at a science museum, and they make them where they're about the size of this table, and it's a clear dome, and inside it is just some water, but it's got a material in the water. It's actually the stuff they put in shampoo to make shampoo sparkly.
Huh.
And so you can find a bottle of this at like a science store, and it's sometimes called Pearl Swirl. It's like pearlescent stuff. But what you can do with this is it's meant to look like the atmosphere of Neptune or Jupiter. And if you spin it, you immediately start to get the bands that form in the different layers. And it goes from looking just like a crystal ball of blankness to looking like the atmosphere of Jupiter.
So it's like one of the gas giants.
Yes, one of the gas giant planets.
Right.
So the first time I saw this in that science center, I just started spinning it, and they expect you to walk up to it and play with the thing for 30 seconds. I was mesmerized just watching the swirls develop and then changing the speed, and you, like, everything you see in a picture of one of those gas planets you can make this look like it. And it's just, so the kit I made, it's a snow globe kit. You can buy at any craft store. It's purified water, so it doesn't get nasty. And then that pearl swirl stuff. And then you can make your own Jupiter in a jar.
So
and
simple.
I will sit and play with this for hours.
That's beautiful. I love it. Great start. Number one. Let's go to number two.
Okay. So number two, and again, I'm not sure how well this will show up, but like astronomy grabbed me as a kid. It was absolutely my favorite thing. But, you know, I was a kid interested in science. So like everybody that age, I thought I have to have a rock collection. And me and my friends would go out and try and find interesting rocks. But, you know, when you're looking in your backyard, all you're going to find are pebbles and gravel. And so to find like interesting like minerals, eventually I had to give up and just buy them at a store. And so I still have that, even though I never really studied minerals, I still have this love from when I was a kid and I was searching for stuff like this. And every time I'm some new town that has like a gem and mineral store, I'll go buy a piece of what's called labradorite. And what's so interesting about it is you can see when you change the angle, light shines through the upper layers and then scatters, and it has this just beautiful blue iridescence. And what's interesting is this rock always grabbed me. And now that I've learned more, finally, like, why does it do that? It's actually the same principle for like you were saying before, why is the sky blue? And it's the same principle we use to study stars. It's the diffraction of light through the layers in the rock. And so I think of this as like Mother Nature created this, and people in my field are building instruments that can do that same sort of iridescence by manipulating glass. So it's a natural version of the instruments that we build.
Great. Love it. And it's beautiful too. Beautiful to look at. All right. What's number three?
Okay. This was an item I feel a little bit guilty about bringing this one, in the sense that, like, you know, my wife and I are not super duper sentimental about gifts. You know, we give each other little things. Neither one of us says like, oh, I really need you to buy me something expensive. This is the one time I asked my wife to spend a chunk of money on me because this was seriously a bucket list item for me. So the thing I tell students, I tell anybody who's interested in astronomy, the interesting thing about our field is everything is light at a distance, right? We point our telescopes at stars, galaxies that we're never going to touch. And the one sample we can actually touch are meteorites. So this is from space, right? Like this came from the asteroid belt and landed on Earth. But even separate from that, like you can buy inexpensive meteorites. You can buy yourself a nice sample for like $20, $30. But this is a really rare kind of meteorite called a palisite. And I'll try to sort of change the angle so maybe you can catch a glimpse of it. It's iron nickel. So the sort of flashy metal part is really metal. But then in between the metal, you see those sort of dark crystals, and that's olivine. It's the scientific name for, like, people buy gems made of olivine and put them in pendants and put them in rings. And this is just naturally occurring olivine inside an iron meteorite that came from space. This is probably, you know, billions of years old and landed on the Earth. And so like I have some cheap meteorites, but I told my wife, I'm like, if you ever want to get me something nice, a palisite is on my bucket list.
I love that. That's great. And that's where, do they know where it was, where they originally landed?
So palisites are really rare.
Okay.
And I should know, but I honestly forget. It's I'm sure I have it somewhere which one this is. Generally, we tend to find meteorites. They're hard to find like in a forest or in a place with a lot of buildings. Or so the easiest place to find meteorites are in deserts and in places like Antarctica, where you just have wide, empty, same color field where you can see a strange looking rock.
Where they stand out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Great one. Wow, good. Okay, next one.
Okay. So this one's another fun one, but this one's one of the bigger things I brought. This came, so sometimes people ask me, like, have I ever worked for NASA? I'm an astronomer. I have never worked for NASA, but I have worked with plenty of people who are NASA employees. I've been to various NASA centers. My favorite piece of trivia about this is NASA was going to throw this out. It was in a closet, and they had a bunch of them, and they were just going to dispose of them. But a friend who worked at NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, she said, people would love to have those. Can I just keep them and give them out? And so what this is, it's from the 1960s. It's from one of the NASA lunar orbiter missions. So before they landed humans on the moon.
Right, before Apollo, yeah.
Before Apollo, we had to map out the surface and figure out where is it going to actually be safe to land Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong. And so they sent robotic satellites to pass by the moon and take pictures. And so right now, today, you can get all of these pictures just online for free. Like you can go to.
Sure.
But I mean, this to me is a piece of NASA history.
That's the real deal. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a real image from the 60s, from when they did this, and they were just going to throw it out. So I was like, if you're going to throw it out, I would love to have one of those in my office. So I have this one that shows the whole disk of the moon. And then I have a second one in a frame that's a very close up patch of a very small piece of the moon.
I always tell people, you want to win a bar bet, here's a good one, and you'll confirm this, I bet. The moon is actually moving away from Earth at something like an inch to an inch and a half a year. Is that right?
It is absolutely right. It is getting further away from us.
Wow. It's strange to think that like in 100,000 years, well, the tides may change. Let's put it that way. All right, let's go to number 5.
Okay, so number 5 is 2 parts. So, and this is another big one, so it'll be a little bit challenging for me to show it off. But, right, so again, just to give you a little bit of background first, as astronomers, we've built telescopes all over the world. We use those telescopes to image the sky, and we're trying to find interesting objects and learn about them. So there's a telescope out in New Mexico that myself and my colleagues have been using for years. It's at the Apache Point Observatory, and it took this absolutely stunning picture of a very large patch of sky. Right, so here we see an image that has many thousands of individual objects. They're stars, they're distant galaxies. So we take the picture because the picture lets us pick out, like, of the thousands of objects on here, like, what are the interesting few hundred? And so that's really the job of an astronomer. There's billions and billions and billions of objects out there in space for us to study. So we want to find ones that we can image. And then once we've taken images of them and we think we know what they are, then we take a spectrum. And a spectrum is you pass the light from that star through a prism. It breaks the light up into the rainbow of colors that the thing is giving off. And by analyzing that rainbow, you can learn so much more about the object than just through a picture. The problem is spectroscopy is hard. And in the old days, we used to do it one by one. So if you think of that picture with thousands of objects, we would point at one object and then we'd get a spectrum of it. And then another one. And it was super tedious to get them all. So one of the things that was pioneered here at Penn State was the idea, well, why don't we pass the light from these objects through fiber optics, the same kind of fiber optics we use in TV and internet. And then we send the light from, instead of one object at a time, how about we send the light from 1,000 objects at a time into our instrument? So to do that, there's a lab where what they do is they take that image, and then here's the heaviest thing I decided to bring with me. This is a 1 meter diameter aluminum plate. And if you can make it out, there are teeny tiny little holes in this plate. And those had to be drilled with 1 micron precision. If like this hole, instead of being here, if it was off by a millionth of a meter, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't send the light through from the star. So I show people that poster, and then I say, okay, here's the metal plate. This had to be drilled to make holes that pinpoint the light from 1,000 interesting objects. And then someone that has been hired at the observatory has to take a glass fiber optic and plug it into every single one of these holes one at a time. And so this is called a Sloan Sky Survey plug plate. And so it's one of my favorite things to show off when I'm teaching, because I have to explain to our students, what do you actually do as an astronomer, right? You have to take these images, you have to analyze the data, you have to identify the interesting things you want to follow up on. And then sometimes you have to go to a machine shop and drill an aluminum plate with very high precision to get the light from just the object you want and not from the objects you don't want.
I love it. Things you don't know.
Yeah.
Chris, good 5 to live by. Excellent first half of a podcast. This is Chris Palma. He is an astronomer at Penn State. Come back when we come back from our break. We are going to talk science. I can't wait. Stay around. Don't go away. All right, welcome back to the 2822 Now app. This is 5 to Live By. I'm your host, Nick Toma. Our guest today via Zoom, Chris Palma. He is an astronomer at Penn State. And Chris, let's talk a little bit of science here. I'm always fascinated about this. What's the one thing that you tell your students that always makes you shake your head about science and space? Something that just always boggles your mind.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a tough one to answer, because honestly, give me a different day and I'll probably say something else. Like, the thing about astronomy is there's so much just like mind-blowing things. But okay, here's one of my favorites, and it's one that I honestly told my students just today in class. You've heard about black holes, I'm gonna guess, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So black holes, they're really odd objects. They warp space in a very peculiar way. And so what I mean by that is, like, so we're used to light shining at us and light comes at a straight line, but a black hole can actually make light orbit, right? You can make, if light gets too close to a black hole,
Right.
it will orbit around that black hole just like a planet. So this is a thought experiment. We can't ever do it, but let's say you and I could fly in a spaceship and we could fly to a black hole.
Right, which there is one at the center of our galaxy,
yes,
right?
we could go there, right? So we get there, and if we're at that exact distance where light is orbiting the black hole, if you look forward, you're going to see light coming from behind you. So if you look straight ahead, you will see the back of your head.
Wow. Okay. So it's really is like bending space there.
Yep.
Am I also right in saying if you were to somehow enter that black hole, you're not coming back?
Yeah. So there's and even there's a worse issue. Like, sometimes people say, like, oh, you could jump in a black hole, but you would never actually make it, because you brought up tides before. If you got close to a black hole, you would feel a tide between your feet and your head, and it would start to stretch you out, and it would stretch you out until you break apart.
Not good. I just think the vastness of space blows me away. Let's talk about this one because it's relatively current. This 31 Atlas comet that it's getting a lot of press because it does some kind of odd things, and it's a lot of social media and is talking about like how it has sort of alien properties. Tell what it is in layman's terms and why it's so different.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And I'm laughing because This is definitely the question of the month that I've been
Yep.
answering a lot, right? So comets are fairly common. We there's many of them in our solar system. There was just a few that you could easily take pictures of over the last few months, and so comets, they're part of our solar system. They some of them start out past Neptune, some of them come from further away, but they go around the sun over and over again, just like planets do. So this particular comet that you brought up is what's called an interstellar comet. And the reason we know that, it's moving much faster than any of the comets that are part of our solar system. And so what this thing must be is you have to picture our sun and all our planets are moving through space, and there's just this ball of ice just out there and it's moving, and we just happen to sort of intersect its pathway. So the reason it's going so much faster is it's not part of our solar system. It came from another star. It's billions of years older than our own solar system, and it's going to pass through the solar system once, never to be seen again. So the part about it potentially being unusual, if you were to see something like that, you were to see something moving really fast, you might say, oh, how can we tell the difference between a comet and a spaceship? And so there is a well-known astronomer who's been trying to say, I think this thing is a spaceship. The issue for that one lonely poor soul is that everyone else is like, it's not.
It's not.
And in
right.
every other way, it looks just like a run-of-the-mill comet. The only difference is this one is moving faster, and it's going to pass through once, never to be seen again.
Which goes to show you, beware what you see and hear on social media.
Exactly.
There is a famous a phrase, we're made of star stuff. We're essentially, am I right? We're made of the material of exploding stars from millions and millions of years ago. Is that kind of a really good way to sort of crystallize how you feel you can make science and space relatable to the average human being who doesn't have a degree from MIT?
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. So that's a famous Carl Sagan line, and it's another one that I use all the time in my own teaching. And the way I approach it with people is I just ask them, like, when you think of what you're made of, like, sometimes people will say, well, oh, aren't we like 75% water? Sure, that's right. So what's water? Hydrogen and oxygen. And so then I'll say, okay, where did the oxygen come from? From everything we can tell, the early universe, when the universe just formed, the only thing in the universe was hydrogen and helium. There was absolutely no oxygen for us to breathe or to make water. And every single particle of oxygen that exists in the universe today was created inside the center of a massive star. And so it is 100% true that you are made of star stuff. The molecules that make up your body at some point in the past were cooked up in a star. That star exploded and spread them through the Milky Way before they ended up in you or me or the Earth or the Earth's atmosphere. So I love that quote as well.
Me too. I always remember that one really stuck with me. Penn State, you guys have a pretty vibrant astronomy department. In fact, I think I was reading a couple of years ago, you made some new discoveries about a certain type of galaxy. I think it was maybe 2023, 24.
So we have one of the largest astronomy departments in the whole country. And it's an interesting accident of history. There was a Penn State professor in the 1920s who started teaching astronomy, and it became popular. So the university decided we should have an astronomy department. We do have a lot of folks who study galaxies. I could be wrong, so you correct me if I'm wrong here. But the discovery I suspect you're talking about is this idea of what are called little red dots. They are a type of galaxy. They're some of the most distant objects we can see. And the only reason we're able to see them at all is with the new James Webb Space Telescope. That telescope is so powerful, it's allowing us to see objects more distant than any telescope that's come before it. And so these objects are still confusing us in the sense that we have pretty good ideas for how galaxies form and what they should look like. And these things don't look like anything else that we've seen before. And so there are definitely 3 or 4 really good, well thought out ideas, but we don't yet know which one is right. So
Interesting.
it's a fun mystery.
What's your sort of, I hate to say look into the future, but
Yeah.
when you consider that, at one point, not very long ago, the fastest you could go was the fastest as far as your horse could run. Did not that long ago. And then our over the generations, propulsion has
Yeah.
gone from the plane, breaking the sonic barrier. Now we have, believe it's Voyager is well beyond our initial solar system, at least in terms of the planets. Can you sort of see a time, certainly not while we're alive, but hundreds, maybe 1,000 years from now, where there will be some invention by somebody who's clearly not born yet, where we might be able to reach the stars?
Yeah. I mean, that's,
And that's the $64,000 question, right?
yeah. I mean, everybody wants to know if that's possible. And it's funny because I think back to when I was starting here at Penn State all those years ago, a guy I shared an office with, he said that the only way we're going to answer some questions in astronomy is to do exactly that, to invent that technology, because really everything we know about the universe comes from studying it at a distance. And there's only so much you can learn by taking pictures and analyzing the light from teeny tiny little dots in our telescopes. So, I mean, so on the one hand, it's just impossible for us to imagine what could someone come up with 100 or 1,000 years from now. On the other hand, the pessimistic part of me says the distances are so much larger than you can imagine. So that you brought up Voyager. Voyager has passed beyond the planets, and it's taken about, 47 years?
I think it's 40 something years. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a blip. It hasn't really gone very far at all.
Yeah. So 47 years it made it out past the planets. To
Yeah.
get to the nearest star, it's going to take it 50,000 more years.
So
Right?
we've got to figure out a faster way to travel, and that's that's I don't know. Maybe there's some again. Before Einstein,
Yeah. Yeah.
we thought well, this is as far as we can take it,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
he came along and changed everything.
So I know, like, is it possible? Maybe, but the scale of things just is so daunting, right? I mean, there are people, like, the great thing is science fiction really does inspire a lot of people. And there
Sure.
have been some ideas in science fiction, the idea of building what's called a solar sail, a piece of essentially fabric that can catch light and get accelerated to nearly the speed of light. And there was a project to try to experiment to see if we could build real working solar sails, and it was successful. But I don't think anyone is sending a solar sail out to the stars quite yet.
All right. Well, I would love to do a podcast one day and talk more about this. This is amazing. I love science, and Chris, you just hit a home run today. Chris Palma is an astronomer with Penn State. Chris, we appreciate you sharing your 5 to live by with us and sharing a little science news and make us think about our universe that's right outside our door. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, hey, what is your 5 to live by? Email me, ntoma@2822news.com. If it's interesting, hey, you may be our next guest on the 2822 Now app, free on Fire TV, Roku, and Apple TV. Have a great night. Hope to see you back here next time. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of 5 to Live By. I'm Nick Tomey. You might have seen me co-anchor the news here on 2822 News. This is the 2822 Now app, and it is free on Fire TV, Roku, and Apple. Free's the best, right? Free 99. We're going to explain the concept of 5 to Live By. If you haven't seen this podcast just yet in just a minute, I want to introduce our first guest. We got a really, really good one tonight. This is Jenna Katz, and she is the president of the Street Art Society of NEPA. Did I get that title right?
Yes.
I got that title right. You're also a teacher too.
I am. Yes.
Is that like your day job, teaching?
That is my day job.
You have a lot going on.
I teach middle school and high school art, but I'm also, yes, the president of the Street Art Society, NEPA.
You and I know each other a little bit. We met at an art, I guess, an art exhibit back last year.
Yeah.
And then you were nice enough to ask me to MC and host your trolley art tours, in which you get to see, you go around Wilkes-Barre and other local towns, and we see the murals that have graced our wonderful area.
Yeah. We do a tour of the murals every year. It's kind of a fundraiser event for our organization.
That was a lot. That was a lot of fun. We kind of co-emceed. Yeah,
thank you.
It was really fun.
Yeah.
And what's great about it is you get to see different areas of our city that you probably pass every day, and you may say, because you're driving and you're like, oh, there's a mural over there. I don't know, but you don't know the meaning behind it, right? Or you don't know how it got started. And that's one of the great things about the tour.
Yeah. So part of how our murals got started, we were just a grassroots nonprofit organization. We got together. It was just 4 women from the community. We had an idea to put murals on buildings in our community as a revitalization effort. And it was amazing because we didn't really know a lot about how to do that. But as we were going through the process, everything just kind of fit together like a puzzle. We met the right people at the right time. We made the connections that we needed to.
It's really wonderful. And you get to not only learn about terrific art, but also about our area as well. And we're going to talk more about that in just a minute. Okay, 5 to Live By. If you've never seen this podcast, the idea is adult show and tell. And by adult, kids can watch too. It just happens to be adults doing this. It's things in your life, 5 things that you just can't live without, things that inspire you, make you a better person, help you get through the workday. It could be super practical, maybe a tote bag that you travel with that's just a perfect size, or it could be something incredibly sentimental, a locket that was handed down from your great-great-grandmother, a cookbook that's been handed down from generations. Things that you say, you know what, this kind of helps define who I am. And each guest brings 5 things. And Jenna brought 5. This is great because you got her you brought a knapsack.
I did, yes.
There are some people who bring who've brought them in like literally a shopping bag. So I like the fact that you came prepared. Now I'm going to let you go in any particular order. You can go 1 through 5.
Yeah,
we'll start with the number 1. Again, it could be there's no level of importance, but
sure, yeah.
Go for number 1.
I didn't grab things that I would necessarily, save if my house were on fire or whatever, but I grabbed things that had an interesting story connected to them. Mm-hmm. So,
as long as it says something about maybe you or your family history, sure, yeah.
All right. So first of all, since we started out talking about the Street Art Society, I did bring our Pride of Place award that we won in 2021.
That's awesome.
Right,
Hold that up to that camera over there. I want to see it. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit opaque, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this is a really, this is something that's very meaningful to me because, like I said, we started out as a grassroots nonprofit organization. We had no idea we would go as far as we were able to go and get, over 30 murals up in the valley. We were just trying to do something to make our community a little bit
that was
brighter.
2021.
That was in 2021.
Was that during COVID?
Yes.
It was. So that must have made it even harder.
It was interesting working on this during COVID. Yeah, that was a strange time. But there were also some good things that had come out of that era. Like my second object ties into that quite a bit. I don't know if
go for the second one. So the first
right.
one, one was an award that who actually gave you that award? Was that a city?
That was through the Wyoming Valley Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
They have this event every year where they honor local organizations.
Okay.
They invited us to the
and get a little bit
Mohegan
closer to the
Sun.
microphone too, if you can.
Yeah. They invited us to the Mohegan Sun Arena and gave that to our team, and it was just such an honor.
That's good.
So,
Excellent. Okay.
I thought I'd start out with that one since we said a little bit about the Street Art Society and the trolley tour. But like I had mentioned before with the Street Art Society, it's almost like we manifested all of this. It was just an idea, And like we made all the right connections at the right time. It was like a puzzle that all fit together. And that's something that I believe in, like manifestation and the law of attraction. I know that that's something that's a little bit, people think it's a little bit woo, but there's a science behind it. And there was something really amazing that happened to me. A few years ago, I was watching this interview between Jim Carrey and Oprah Winfrey online. And Jim Carrey talks about how he wrote himself a check for like $10 million and he carried it around in his wallet. And he ended up manifesting that amount of money because he somehow got the job for, I think it was the movie Ace Ventura or Dumb and Dumber, and he made that amount of money.
So it was almost like an inspirational, I guess what's the word? It's like an inspirational piece that you kind of keep secret in your wallet or something. Yeah.
Right. So I was just inspired by that, and I wrote down.
That's a great idea.
I wrote a fake check to myself for an amount of money. It wasn't like $10 million or anything, but it was something that was definitely life-changing. And I kept it behind this photograph. And it was just a photograph of a bunch of dancers from like the 1920s. I don't know. I felt like they were looking up to the sky and calling out to the universe, trying to manifest something. But
so this is a photo. You just cut this out of a magazine.
Yeah, it was out of a calendar. Honestly, it was one of those art calendars.
Interesting. And you still have the check?
I have the check.
Now, I don't want to reveal your address or anything.
I'm not going to hold that up.
Yeah, don't hold that over there. Do you mind if I ask how much did you write it out for?
It was like $100,000.
Hey, all right, okay. That is not a small change.
It's not small change, but it was like a life-changing amount, and I ended up manifesting that in a totally unexpected way.
It's kind of they say, they call it wishful thinking, and I know Oprah has a phrase. I can't remember what it is, but
she's the one that interviewed.
She's the one
that they were talking about that.
But I think it goes to show you how, like for you, how did it manifest itself? Was it like just the power of positive thinking?
It was kind of like, it's the power of positive thinking. It's like raising yourself to that vibration, acting as if it's already happened, right? So there was a house that I had my eye on, and I had been looking at it since I was 24 years old. I'd ride my bike through this neighborhood. And
it wasn't for sale. People were living in it.
For sale at the time, and I was always kind of interested in it.
Because it's kind of hard to get a house if somebody's already living in it, but go ahead, yeah.
Well, yeah, then it went up for sale like right before the pandemic. Okay. And I was like, oh yeah, there's that house that I like. It was still like a little bit out of my range. So I was like, oh man, all right. And then you think somebody buys a house and they're there for like decades. They don't move out. It's like, all right, that's
right.
Somebody's gonna live there they live there for like just 18 months to 2 years.
Wow.
Right? I now own that house. All
right,
it's my dream house. And I got there because of this manifestation I otherwise wouldn't have had. And it was only because like housing prices went up during the pandemic.
Right.
This little starter house that I bought when I was 28 years old, suddenly
all of a sudden it wasn't.
I never saw that coming. Nobody ever saw COVID coming. Nobody ever saw that.
But and it's not so much, do you agree with this? It's not so much like the dollar amount where it could be $10 or 100,000 or 10 million. It's more the idea of you're kind of manifesting good things to come in your future. Now of course you've worked hard for it. It's not like you can't just write out a check for $1 million and go
you have to do
and
the
wait
steps,
around.
The physical steps that bring it all together. But I was looking at this house. I wrote down different characteristics.
It's amazing you had a specific
I studied
house.
the floor plan, and that is now my house that I own, and I wouldn't have gotten that otherwise.
I was going to say, if you wanted to be a real estate agent, that would be that'd be the commercial.
Now, this is the thing. This is the kicker. This is the weirdest part of my story, okay? I bought this house, and for some reason, there was plastic over one of the windows that needed to be replaced, but there was a paper kite in that window with my name on it. I'm getting chills talking about this, but
so it had Jenna on it.
It had Jenna on it, which, my name is a little bit more unusual. It's not like a super popular name. But the woman that lived there with her husband before the people that bought it and lived there for 18 months, she had a daughter named Jenna.
Wow. Okay.
And for me to find this kite in this house that I had my eye on when I was 24 years old, that I always felt it was kind of out of my range, but it would be the ideal. that I would, want to own. If
That adds another layer to it.
that adds
Yeah.
another layer to it. And it
Okay.
was like the weirdest thing that had ever happened to me. in
Maybe
my
there
life.
is something. I know. Listen,
Yeah, like-
I'm one of those people who mathematically they've proven parallel universes. I
Yeah.
don't know if you know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is. It's one of I listen to him all the time. So you don't know. This is we're in one universe, and who knows if there's one that's parallel that affects us. Yeah.
Right, and did I already somehow know that this was my house?
There you go.
That I would get
Right.
this in
There's
this
a lot
lifetime,
of coincidence
but
there. Yeah.
Why did they not remove that paper kite from that window?
Exactly.
I'm thinking this was out of my range. I could never
Yeah.
get that, but this weird COVID thing happened, and
boy,
then
okay.
it's
I
just
got a little bit of a chill up my
super
spine there.
freaky,
That was a
yeah.
good story, Jen. Okay, let's do
Yes,
number 3.
That's my story. Okay, so I guess number 3 would be this garlic
A
press.
garlic press.
A garlic
Wow.
press. So
Okay.
yeah, we go from like the manifesto check to something.
I
simple
like to
a
cook,
garlic
so
press.
I see why this is
Yes.
practical. Yeah.
I love to cook. This garlic press belonged to my grandmother. So after she passed away,
Wow.
there wasn't a lot that I had saved from her house, but this garlic press was like, this was the thing I had to
She
have.
obviously was a good cook, right?
Yeah.
But what's amazing about it is that doesn't look like it's very old.
No, it's a Pampered Chef garlic, but this was like from the 90s when
Okay, but
Pampered
still.
Chef was like a
Yeah,
big thing.
yeah.
But this is the one that she lived until she was 92 years old, and she was a tremendously good cook, and she would just throw things together out of very simple ingredients. And,
What's your specialty?
I don't know if I have a specialty. I don't even know. How
Like,
to
let's say
identify.
you had guests coming over, you wanted to impress them.
I do a really, really good turkey chili.
Ooh, okay.
So,
All right.
you
Throw a
know,
little garlic in there. I have a carrot peeler,
Uh-huh.
that is probably 25 years old, and it's worn out. I bought a new one. I still use the old one
Yeah.
because it works better than the new one. Anyway, that's just
There's
something.
meaning to some of that. Like ordinary
Right.
kitchen tools can
Yep.
hold a lot of
Meaning, yeah.
meaning. So.
All right, that's number 3. Let's go for number 4.
All right, number 4. This is a bell that I have. It's probably the oldest thing that I own. This is from a trip that I took to China back in 2009. It was probably like the second time I'd ever been on an airplane, and I made this trip. I had a friend that was living there. She was teaching English to Chinese businessmen, and she lived out there for quite a few years. And I went out to visit her during that time, and it was like a 17-hour trip on a plane. I went by myself. I never traveled with my parents on a plane, so like
Yeah. How old were you again?
I was probably like 21,
Okay.
22.
All right.
2009. I'm not doing the math in my head here, but it's probably the oldest thing that I own. I got it at a
Beautiful. Wow. It's got weight to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. And then and
from
and this
flea market.
it's just a flea market, and it's just
Yeah,
something that
it's
you
just
sort of
something that I picked up, and it's special to me. But
do you have it in a special place in your house?
yeah, I keep it on a shelf in my
Nice.
kitchen. But yeah,
That's great. That's nice. You can tell it's not just like a cheap thing. It has like some weight to it.
yeah, it's just an interesting thing that has a lot of meaning to me. That trip was special. It kind of marked me not being afraid to travel by myself and
Right.
to take chances.
There's
and-
risks of traveling, especially foreign country, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Different
I got off
language.
the plane, and like she wasn't there to greet me. It was somebody else that took me to where she was at. So it was just very
Right.
like I had to trust. There was a lot of trust I had to put in the universe for that all to go well. I didn't speak the language at all,
Right.
so
There's
yeah,
a lot of good memories with that one. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's we have about 2 minutes. Let's do the 5th
okay.
one. All right.
So the 5th one is just I brought paintbrushes, and I brought 2 art books that are important to me. So
Okay.
the first one,
Hold that one up to that camera. I want to see this one. Yeah, this is
Dada Art and Anti-Art.
okay.
And I got that at a library book sale many, many years ago when I was a teenager, actually. And it made such an impact on me that I did my senior project on that. I made an independent film about Dadaism. And then as I was putting that film together, somebody recommended the book Lipstick Traces to me. And this has been my favorite book
It's
of all time.
how do you pronounce it? Is it Greil Marcus?
Yeah, Greil Marcus.
Greil Marcus.
He's a writer of pop culture. He talks about a bunch of like different counterculture movements that all come together in a unique way. So it's about Dadaism. It's about the surrealist. Different like ways that poetry was used, and a lot of like absurdism, which I'm seeing cycle back around. When I look at art online and we see things like, I don't know, AI producing videos that are really dreamlike and crazy, and even some of the humor that's being integrated into TV shows that are popular now. It's like very Dada,
Right. And so that style of art is something that you incorporate in the art you do now. Oop.
No, not necessarily. It kind of opened my mind to what can be considered art, and just kind of informed my thinking about art. The art that I do personally, like I do paintings of. I just do it as sort of a meditative practice. I do campfire paintings. You've seen them. You've
seen
been
some,
to
yeah.
my art show, and I just like, my favorite things to paint are the effects of light. As light bounces off of buildings in a cityscape, or as we see, lanterns glowing across the snow or casting shadows.
Yeah, I did get to go to one of your shows, and it's some beautiful work.
Yeah, so that's the work that I do.
Well, that was a good 5. That was a good 5. Good 5
Thank
to
you.
live by. I think we got to know you a little bit better. We're going to be back after this break with Jenna Katz, who is the president of the Street Art Society of NEPA. We're going to talk murals. We're going to talk the trolley tours, and just, I don't know, art in general. A good discussion with her coming up. Don't go away. Hey, another edition of 5 to Live By. I'm Nick Toma. This is the 2822 Now app. It is free on Fire TV, Roku, and Apple TV. 5 to Live By. It's 5 things that inspire you. 5 things that if the house were on fire, not that we'd ever want to wish that, but you would grab those things. Things that make you live a better life and inspire other people. And you know what? Maybe you at home say, you know what? That's a great idea. I want to get one of those too. Our guest tonight is Jenna Katz with the Street Art Society of NEPA. And let's talk about street art in NEPA. I know you've been to other cities and seen some street art. I was recently in Cincinnati, and I even sent you a mural that we saw. I took a tour of downtown Cincinnati. So there are some cities around America that have great street art tradition and some terrific tours. How does this area compare to some of the other cities you've seen?
Well, I think we're pretty well known elsewhere. Like my friends that live in the Lehigh Valley know our area as having really good murals, So, and we have friends from Philadelphia that want to come up and paint murals here. So,
in fact, some people, if I remember correctly, on the trolley tour, you mentioned that there were some artists from the bigger cities that come out here to do it.
Yeah. I think our area has a lot of potential, a lot of wall space, and it's easier to put murals here than it is in the larger city sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does it work? Like, let's say I owned a business, right, and I had a huge brick wall on the side, and I said, hey, Jenny, I'd be interested in participating. Is that how it works usually, or do you guys seek out the businesses?
So we get grant funding for different areas. So like if you are in one of the boroughs that we're getting the grant money for, we would look for buildings that are in a highly visible area, like along a main street, buildings that need a little bit of love and sprucing up.
Right. Because you could go in residential areas that are, in the back side streets, but it's not a lot of people are going to see them.
And then, like, if there's somebody that owns a business and they're able to, like, invest in a mural, like, that's good too, right? Because there are some places that wouldn't have a mural if there wasn't grant funding for them to be able to do that.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? So,
yeah. And you have some murals yourself, right?
I do. I have some small ones. I've been on the scene for all of the murals that have gone up, though. So I've helped artists with base coats and prepping the buildings, and have even assisted on site I'm a logistics person, so I show up and I bring, materials for
Okay.
the artist. I call for the lifts to show up on site.
And it's not like for people. And again, I can't draw a straight line. That's why I admire people like you, because I think I have an artistic sensibility, but I can't actually do it. It's not just like, oh, just get some paint and go out there and paint a wall outside. It has to be special paint and special.
Oh, of course, yeah. We have to look for paint that'll hold up well against the elements. There's even like a special process to it, rather than working on little details at a time. You'd want to do like your base coats, your big block colors first, and then go in with your details. So there's like an order to it. I remember our first mural, Evan Lovett came up from Philadelphia and he put that on the wall in 18 hours. And it's a super detailed piece, but it's all about his process. It's all about the type of method you use to get it on the wall.
Sure.
That either makes it like a lot easier to do. You could complete it in 18 hours, or it might take you like weeks and weeks to do.
For people who've never taken the trolley tour, or maybe passed by a mural once or twice and just kind of didn't really think much about it, it's not a part of their life. Why should they go on one of the mural tours? 'Cause I know you probably have them coming up when the weather gets nicer in the spring.
So if you go on one of the mural tours, you get the backstory behind it. There's a lot of things like they'd go up on a building and you don't really see the background work that goes into getting a lot of these things on the wall.
You see it when
Like,
it's finished, usually.
yeah, you see it when it's finished, and maybe you see it like halfway through if you're driving past. But there are a lot of fun stories that go into each of these murals. There's a lot of different things that have happened at each site that taught us as we were going through it. Like we got lifts stuck in the ground. It would rain one night, and then we get this huge piece of machinery stuck in the mud, and we'd have to figure out a creative way to get it out.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
There's different issues that come up with the types of wall surfaces that we're painting on.
Also, one thing I found too, and I've lived here now almost 10 years, you find out about the little nook and cranny neighborhoods as you're going through them, learning about the murals, right? Right. And I know that's something that's one of the things you want people to find out about these.
Absolutely, yeah. Like we have received emails from people that have come to take tours of the murals from out of the area. Like that was really cool to see. And
in fact,
so
I think the night I was there, I'm seeing there was somebody from far out of town. I can't remember where, but they were from nowhere near this area,
like Bethlehem or something.
Right.
Or, yeah.
But they were art fans, and they had heard about it. Yeah. Let's talk about this because when I'm much older than you. Clearly, when I was growing up, street art was called graffiti. What changed in the last 30, 40 years for people to become much more accepting of street art as art for art's sake?
Well, I think the advent of social media and the fact that you can put a piece of art on the wall and take a photograph of it and get it out there, it makes it a little bit more, there's a little bit more weight to it. There's a difference between street art and graffiti, but like street art, there's more resonance. Sorry, it goes out, it's online. It doesn't last forever, but like it's like an installation. The photos are out there, and they can exist for like however long those links are available. And
well, that brings up another question.
Yeah.
Do you guys switch out like after every say 2 years? Do you say, well, okay, well this mural is going to be painted over and a new one there?
Yeah, no. Like we have a contract for a certain amount of time. So like. We know that buildings will change hands. There might be a new owner to a building that has to do something else. There might be a fire that damages a mural or something that happens to it. We know that they're not going to last forever, but we hope that they last a really long time and that people want to keep them on the building and preserve them. We actually went out this summer and we fixed a mural that had some water damage that was chipping off the side of a building. So we want to try to keep them around as long as possible because they add a lot to our community, and they show that people care about the space and they make other people want to care about the space. And there's kind of a ripple effect too with the way they inspire change and revitalization. I mean, we've all seen what happened to downtown Pittston.
Pittston's,
and the change.
That was my next question. Pittston really, I mean, that's Pittston for 30 years ago. I don't think that would have even been conceived of as an art enclave, right?
Right, and now it is. Now it's like one of those hip little towns that you want to go and spend the weekend walking around and then going into some of the shops that are there and restaurants, because it's an attractive place now, and the murals are a part of that.
Not everyone agrees with the street art movement. I know that you've seen that. What do you tell people who say, listen, this is, you shouldn't be putting these, what if I don't like the style of art or something like that? Or, what do you tell them?
Oh, the response has been so overwhelmingly positive that, any negative comments that come up are outweighed by all of the good comments.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
listen,
so-
even in the television industry, there's always one or two people you hear,
Yeah. And not every mural is going to appeal to every person. Like, people have their favorites among them and ones that really appeal to them. And
Right. What's sort of the ultimate goal of street art? Is it to just sort of make you think and feel, or is there another sort of higher goal there? Because really, thinking and feeling, any form of art, isn't that the basic? You really want somebody to think about something.
I think to make people feel better about our area. You know what I mean? I read, oftentimes you'll see things that come up in the news or whatever. There's a lot of comments, people being negative and complaining about this area. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of things to appreciate about it. So we're hoping that the art that goes up, it's a visible sign that things are getting better and changing. And
I've heard the same comments,
Yeah.
and you know what? It's well, look, there's always negative Nellies out there. I mean, I don't care. I've lived in several different places. They're always going to be there. Give us an idea of what you have coming up personally. Do you have any art shows coming up that people can?
So I don't have any shows personally. I have a mural that's going up right now at the Lighthouse Inn. I'm painting that for the restaurant, and that's kind of like the big thing that I'm working on and finishing up right now.
For people don't know, where's the Lighthouse Inn?
That is in Swearsville. So that's like a personal project. The Street Art Society has 2 phases coming up for Hanover and Exeter. So we're putting out an artist call right now, actually, for artists to apply for those 2 phases. There's some different themes that are coming up. Hanover is community connections. Exeter show us, interesting history that doesn't have anything to do with coal mining, because we want to move forward into the future and not get stuck on the anthracite mining stuff. There's a lot of other interesting things about our area.
And can we?
So.
You don't have to say specifically if you don't want, but can you tell where you teach and what grade?
Oh, I teach at Lake Lehman, and I teach 7th graders and high school students.
What's kind of which group is a little bit easier? A little older. They probably have different.
I like them both for different reasons, but I really enjoy working with high school students, as some of them, they're there for an elective, right? So some of them are choosing to go into visual arts as a career, so it's really fun to work alongside of them and see them develop in that way.
Do you see sort of talent early on in
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I like when some of the stuff. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're going to keep going, yeah.
I've had.
I'm getting a signal off
some
screen.
7th graders come back for high school electives, and it's really nice to see how much their art skills have developed in the few years that they've been away. And
That must feel so satisfying and gratifying as a
yes.
teacher to, and you said you've had some people move on to make careers out of visual arts, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have. So Morgan Masters, who painted one of our murals in Luzerne, I had been giving her art lessons since she was 8 years old, and now she's working for a company that does video games in California, and she's an animator. So it's really cool to see somebody go into art and do something that they're passionate about. And
In fact, I think your most famous student, certainly that we both know, Rachel
right.
Malik, who used to be a co-host of
Yeah,
PA
was
Live
doing
and is
great
now working
things
in
and-
Philadelphia. The first night we met, she said, one of my students was Rachel Malik. I was like, really?
yeah.
You didn't even look old enough to have a student Rachel's age a
thank
couple
you.
years ago, and she certainly. When I spoke to Rachel, she said, "Boy, you're just a great teacher." So you clearly have a way of conveying knowledge and inspiring students. So
Thank you.
we really appreciate it. We're going to hear a lot more, spring. Probably as soon as the weather gets nicer, spring 2026, we'll probably be looking at another mural tour.
Absolutely. Yeah. Please stay tuned. Our website we have a Facebook page. Please get on our Facebook page. We have Instagram. Look for the artist calls if you're an artist and you want to participate in mural making, or if you want to go on one of the tours. Definitely, keep an eye on us.
I was such an honor. Thank you for asking. And if we're all healthy and next spring we'll do it again.
Thank you, Nick.
Jenna Katz, appreciate it. Now, what is your 5 to live by? I want to hear it. It's ntoma@2822news.com. palma.com. Write them down, any particular order, and I don't know, maybe your 5 to live by will be our next podcast. Again, it's free on the 2822 Now app, Fire TV, Roku, and Apple TV. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Hello, I'm Andy Mahalish, lead I-Team reporter at 2822 News. We're coming to you from our 2822